What belong to the owner or the renter?
Maseches, Bava Metzia, Amud Yomi. Everything will be very clear very soon, Bezos Hashem. In Amud Yomi, Pei Amud Aleph. New start, new day. Still have the cheesecake flavor in our mouth from the Shavuos. So let's go. The Shiur's Leilun Nishma Savimur Menachem Ben Akiva Rus Bas Shalom Sol Bas Moshe. לרפואה סביב בס דבוי ולרפואה נעמה בסלחל רמה לבסת אלחיה לבסתומו. Says the holy Mishnah, and I want to welcome everybody here, everyone in YouTube and everyone in Torah anytime. A person hired a car. He rented another car. Did it say a car? A cow. Now, the idea, the reason when the person is borrowing and actually renting the cow, because he wants to plow with a cow. How do you plow with a cow? And the original agreement was he's supposed to use it in a mountain. Yeah, the rent a cow guy told him he can use it in a mountain. The Chorash Babika, instead of that, he plowed in the Bika, in the valley. So now, a har, by the way, a har is a place, the mountain is a place that's usually more rocky. Yeah, har is more like a rocky substance. It has the ground there. And the bika, usually most fields are in the bika actually. The valley is where the ground is nicer and softer. So if the balabais told him, you can actually plow in the mountain, and he plowed instead of that in a place which is easier, yeah, to plow because it's softer ground. Im nishbar kankan potu. So answering your question, the kankan is basically the part behind the animal that plows the field. Now, the kankan is not the actual machresha, the plow itself, which is very sharp. It's a wooden piece that's there to make the more superficial plowing before the real plow comes in. In other words, there are two stages. There's like the wooden piece that's behind the cow, and that creates the outline of the furrows and gives this is like softer to just, make a superficial groove, yeah, a furrow, and then comes the real stuff, the one from metal that really cuts into the ground. Okay, so that kankan is apparently something a bit sensitive because it's only made out of wood, and if the ground is too hard or if you get it stuck too deep, then it can break. So now and that belongs to the owner of the cow. The cow owner, yeah, he brings the cow, full service, rentacow.com, everything you need for your plowing needs. All your plowing needs are met in one place. Unbelievable. So the guy who, don't you use them? No? So then there's excellent service. So then what happens then? In Nishbar Kankan Potu, let's say the Kankan, which is that piece behind the cow, to do the superficial plowing, that broke, his Potu is exempt. Why is he exempt? Of course, I'm now representing the guy who plowed, the client. Says the client to the owner, what do you mean? You told me to plow in the mountain where it's much more rocky and hard, and I used it in a place where it's easier and softer. Yeah, so if it broke on potter, it's oinus. I didn't misuse it. On the contrary, I took it to an easier place, to a softer place, then it's potter. However, if it's the opposite, the bika, the chorosh bahar, if he originally told him, the rent-a-cow guy told the client, chorosh, you can only use it in the bika, use it in the valley, and he took it to the mountain where it's harder, and yeah, more problematic, in nishbar kankan chayev. Then if the kankan broke, he's chayev. Why is he chayev? Obviously, he took it to a place where it's much more susceptible, yeah, likely to break. So it's not to oinus, it's pshia. You're pshia, you gotta pay. Now, lodush bekitnis v'dash betvua. A person was, yeah, supposed to get that cow or whatever, any kind of, this is not a machresha, this is now another animal, another machine that's there to thresh. Yeah, lodush. To thresh is basically to step on the grains, whichever grains there are, in order to get the kernel out of the chaff, out of the wheat, the barley, whatever that is, out of the stalk. So now, lodush bekitnis, the person was given the disha equipment, the threshing equipment, in order to be dash be kitnis. Kitnis is all kinds of legumes. The dash betvua. Instead of that, he was dash with tvua, which is regular wheat, barley cereals. Then is potter. Yeah, why is he potter? Because there the animal can slip. Yeah, those things. Yeah, those either legumes or the tvua, they can get slippery. Now the kitnis is more slippery than the tvua. So if I got it in order to get the kitnis, which is very slippery, and then it was dash betvua, which is less slippery, and yet it slipped, it's potter. I upgraded it. I put it in a place which is safer. Yeah, I used it for a safer job, and yet it happened. Definitely not my fault. But lodush betvua v'dash bekitnis chayev. If really originally the person told him, listen, I'm renting you out this cow in order to be dash in the tvua, which is the what you call it, the wheat, the barley, the cereals, and you foolishly took it to the kitnis, used it for kitnis, for let's say kitnis would be what's the name? No, look what the Ashkenazim do on Pesach, legumes, beans, yeah, lentils, beans, very good. Chayev, then he has to pay. Why? Because the kitnis actually is more slippery. Yeah, this is for the next Mishnah. It's not for now. Very good. Practical more now. Another question. Now we have to know, and this is something which Rashi says already in the Mishnah, that the person hires the cow with equipment. The person, the cow owner, he's a big boss. He doesn't do it all on his own. He usually has two people to help him, two neorim. Usually has two young people that help him plowing. What do these two people do? One of them leads the cow, one of them directs the cow, aligns the cow, and the other one is in the back making sure that the machresha, that the back piece, that wooden piece called kankan, is located in the proper place in the ground. Yeah, one is in the front, one is in the back. One is in charge of being the Waze, the GPS, to direct the cow, and the other one makes sure that the actual plowing takes place. Yeah, well, the first stage of the plowing is the wooden piece that does the more superficial, shallow plowing. Let's say the person behaved nicely. Loy shanibo, the guy who rented the cow, the one who plows the field, the owner of the field. What happens if he didn't change? He told him mountain, he went to the mountain. He told him the bika, the valley, he went to the valley. Man mishalim, if it still happened that really the kankan broke, which is really bad, the equipment broke, who's supposed to pay? Which one of the two helpers is supposed to pay? That's a question. Which one of the two is supposed to pay? Is it the one that directed the cow the wrong direction, and maybe it broke because he went to the wrong direction and maybe it stepped over some kind of rock or something? Or is the guy in the back who, tachlis, at the end of the day, is the one who misused the kankan? It's not so simple. Omar Papa, Machloikes, Omar Papa, the Nakit Parsha Mishalem. Yeah, the one who takes the mardea. Mardea is that kind of equipment that makes sure that the cow goes the right direction. It's something they put on top of the cow, or like a stick that you hit the cow, whatever it means. The Parsha, the one who directs the cow, he has to pay. Says Rashi, why? You took it to the wrong direction because they didn't go in the proper furrow, in the proper trajectory we're supposed to go. That's why the thing in the back broke. Yeah, driving in the wrong direction, got it to the wrong place, and it broke. However, Rav Shisha Breder video, no, the Nokit Mana Mishalim, the one who actually holds the kli, the mana, the one who holds the utensil in his hands, the kli, he has to pay. Why? Because says Rashi, he went too deep. Yeah, that thing is a sensitive item. You can only do some shallow plowing with it. He went too deep into the ground. Probably that's what happened. That's what we assume. Now, what's the halacha? The nokit mana mishalem. The halacha makes more sense. The one who held the actual kankan has to pay for the breakage of the kankan. Why? Because Lamaisa, he's the one more directly in charge, right? The one in front, right? The one in front, and Chinami, yeah, right? The one in front took him to the wrong place. But had you used the kankan properly without getting it too deep, it wouldn't have happened. The one who's holding the kankan makes more sense is the one who's going to pay for it. However, continues the Gemara 1 second. However, Zog the Gemara, v'iduchta de machzeka gunderi. Let's say it's a place which is known to be a very dangerous place. It's a place going up the mountain full of rocks. It's a very rocky place, really horrible place for charisha, for plowing. And yet, yeah, they went there and they plowed there with the permission of the original owner. Who has to pay? Which one of the two workers has to pay? The front or the back? Says the Gemara, Tarvayu Mishalmin. They both have to pay. Why do they both have to pay? And thank you for your patience. Why do they both have to pay? Rashi says because we have a suffix. Because it's such a terrible place, In other words, you know that this is a very, very dangerous place to plow. It's a very, very sensitive place, and it's very likely that things are going to break. Therefore, your responsibility on both ends is much stronger. Now, usually we say that the guy in front who's directing the cow can get off the hook. In this case, the responsibility is higher because you both know that, it's bad news, and therefore they both have to pay. Why do they both have to pay? It says Rashi, interestingly, because it is a davar hamutal besofik. We're in doubt. We're not sure. Yeah, if the stakes are much higher here. We're not sure if it's the person who's directing or the person who's holding the kankan. Which one is it that's in charge? So in case of doubt, we say both should pay. Tosfos asks the question on Rashi and says, "Mapitom, what are you talking about? We paskin lahalocha amoitzim chaveroi olavaraya not momenu mutal b'sofik choilkim." We don't say money in doubt should be split between the two. We say what? We say, who says you're chayiv? In other words, if Rashi believes that we're now in doubt whether the front guy or the back guy have to pay, then nobody should pay. Why? They both hold the money. Each one will tell the balabais, their boss, their employer, it's him. In other words, yeah, motzim chaveroi. Therefore, answers Tosfos an entirely different answer. Very, very interesting answer. It says like this, yeah? Let's read Tosfos inside. It's the second Tosfos, and we are in the middle of the Tosfos. Line starts with the word Turim. Elani releases Tosfos. The achas shneim poshu. They were both were negligent. Both are at fault. Kevin the machzika begundari, because this place is very dangerous and very rocky. Hu nishbar me'oid bekal. It can break very easily. V'hayel kol echad litan level chaveroi kmo al atzmoi v'laziroi. Wow, which means each one is in charge of his friend as well. That's what they both have to pay. When we plow in normal conditions, let's talk about driving, working, right? Sometimes you drive in a nice normal road. Who's in charge? One person. Yeah. Here in this case, when you have plowing, when you plow in a very dangerous, very precarious place where it can very likely break, each one has responsibility over himself and responsibility over his friend. Because that we are in it together, the co-pilot and the pilot, it's serious business. You have to be so concentrated and make sure that the other guy is not messing it up, right? Ever, when you move a table together, a very heavy table, big and heavy, through a very narrow corridor kind of thing, right? You have to make sure what your friend does as well. This is not a cakewalk, right? And therefore, says Tosfos, they both have to pay in such a case. And that's halacha. Question time. Another topic to do with the previous Mishnah. Amar B'Yochanan, new case. A person sells a cow to his friend. Amar lo, and he told him, this cow is an agchonis, is a gorer. In other words, this cow, you should know, I'm telling you, I'm being very super honest with you, and I'm telling you, this cow tends to gore all the time. The shchonisi, he likes to bite, it's a biter, it likes to bite. Ba'atonisi, it's a kicker, it likes to kick. Ravtzonisi, it tends to crouch in the middle of the street, stubbornly to stay in the same place. What a beautiful deal. In other words, it gives him a whole list of shortcomings, and this way he is, what's he really doing here? Basically, it's one big disclaimer. Don't come to me afterwards. I'm covering myself with all the small print. T and C, it's called in Britain, yeah? Terms and conditions apply, T and C. In other words, I'm telling you this, it has this chesar and that chesar and the other shortcoming, disadvantage. Yeah, I'm telling you now. V'hoya b'mum echod, and really, none of those things really are true. This poor calf doesn't have any of those issues, except for hoya b'mum echod. One of the issues is true, the son for bein mumin. In other words, as he was telling you about 15 different mumin, 15 different issues, he also told him, let's say it has, I don't know, a broken something, I don't know, whatever, something. And he added it, he inserted it together with the other mumin that do not exist. In other words, basically speaking, let's say he gave him a list of 10 issues, out of which only one is true. And he basically, swallowed it together. He inserted the real mum together with the other mumim that do not exist. Right? And that mum does bother the real owner. This is a mekach tos. Yeah, this is mekach tos, and actually you can give it back to the original owner. Why? Why is that? Because had you told me about the one mum that he really has, I would have paid attention. You told me about all these mumim, and very soon I see that it's not true. It's a beautifully well-behaved cow. It doesn't kick, it doesn't scream, it doesn't ask you for a credit card, nothing. It's a very, very good cow. Yeah. And what? Mimela, I imagine now that all you're doing is stam. Therefore, even that one mum that is true, when you said that, I didn't believe you either. You sound so incredible and so trying to cover yourself at any cost. And Mimela, I didn't even believe the one. It's a bit like cry wolf. Even when you are saying the truth, I don't believe you anymore. Because I realize all you're saying, oh, here's this problem, this issue, the other issue, it's only because of what? It's only because you want to cover yourself. You stop not being honest. You kill being super honest. You're not telling me true facts. Since you don't tell me true facts, even when you told me the one mum that I do care about, that the cow likes to eat a lot, let's say, some kind of mum, I didn't believe that either. Because you lost your credibility with me. Now that I see that the cow eats too much, let's say, and that you mentioned along with many other mumim that are not true, I don't believe anything you say anymore. And therefore the whole thing is mekatos, take back the cow. I don't want a cow that eats too much. Let's say I'm just choosing an example. However, now to accentuate that, we'll see the difference between another case. If he said mum ze mum acher, en ze mekachtos. Oh, let's say he mentioned the one true mum that it has. Let's say overeating. Yeah, it says, this guy overeats as one clear thing, and it also has other mumim. But he definitely stressed that one mum. Although he doesn't have other mumim, but because the one mum of, let's say, overeating was clearly stated separately, yeah, and the other ones were just mentioned, but derech agav in general, enze mekachtos. That's not mekachtos, because you can see that he didn't just slip it in, he didn't insert it with all the other mumim that don't exist. He mentioned it as a very chosh of a major mum, and he also said, and it has other things as well. That is good. There's a real mum, and I want to cover myself, like the insurance, like the salesman. I cover myself. It may have other issues. Don't come back to me. Fine. But he did mention more clearly, yeah, and more centrally, the real mum. Oh, that's not mekachtos. Now, so that's a mekachtos. Tani namiyachi. A brisa to support that. Now, we're not talking about a cow. We talk about a shifcha, a maid servant. A person sells a shifcha knainis to his friend. Yeah, a shifcha knainis. The Omer loy, the seller tells the buyer, shifcha zu. You know this shifcha? I'm telling you now. Shoitahi. It's a shoita. Yeah, completely. Yeah, inept. Whatever. Mentally not there. Nichbesi. Nichbes lo leinu. It has epilepsy. Yeah, mishumemesi. Mishumemesi doesn't mean bored. Mishumemesi means crazy. It's both mentally unwell and also stam crazy. It has a craze, yeah. All kinds of nice things he has to say about the shifcha that he sells his friend. Out of which only one mum that is mentioned there is true, the son for ben mumin. Within all the other mumim, the shifcha doesn't have. He wakes up the morning after, yeah. He sees what? He sees that the shifcha cleans the house. Amazing shifcha. She's not crazy. She's mentally well. She's fine. She's obedient. And she has one chisaron, I don't know, overeating, let's say. Now, the overeating was mentioned with one amongst other 15 mumim in the document or verbally. So then, again, I don't believe you. I saw very quickly that everything you said was nonsense. Mimele, I thought overeating is also nonsense. So in 10 hours' time, it was time to eat. But then I didn't think she's going to overeat. Again, I'm telling you a clear example now. I'm sorry, take back the shifcha. You think you're being over good, over chacham? On the contrary, you said so many things that are not true, so many mumim, I don't believe you anymore. By the way, the Ritva is a different shot. Very interesting. The Ritva says, why did you really mention all those mumim that don't exist? Why should a person shoot himself in the leg? Rashi says, to cover himself. Some people are so scared of, doing the wrong thing, is, being too good, and he covers every possible scenario that doesn't exist even there. The Ritva says the other way. The Ritva says he's trying to sell the shifcha, and says, this shifcha is so good, even though it's mishomemis, it's nichbes, she's still very, very functional. He's trying to praise the shifcha or lahavdil, the cow. Yeah, now this cow. Yeah, let's say the cow. Let's talk about the cow. This cow is such an amazing worker. Wow, he works the field so well. So although this cow is a mashigana, it can bite and kick and this and that, still worth it. It's being, arrogant about the cow. Yeah. Yeah, that cow is such a Tesla, 2025 Tesla cow. Wow. Even though it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chesaronis, it's still worth it for you to buy it. But it's the same idea as Rashi. In other words, it's just empty talk when you talk about so many chesronis, and the chesronis don't really exist. However, continues the Braisa about the shifcha, mum zeh, mum acher, ein ze mekachtos. If he only mentioned, let's say, 2 mumim, he clearly said the shifcha overeats. And then he said, and you know what? And there are other mumim. Yeah, maybe they don't exist. Later on, he says, and also he likes, and also crazy. But he clearly mentioned in the beginning as a separate statement, the real mum, then it's not something that was covered and swallowed with all the other lies. He said a true thing clearly separately, and then he says general things which may not be true. You still got a chance to get the feeling that the overeating, let's say, is a real issue. I'm stop taking an example overeating. The Gemara doesn't say that. Now comes the question. What would be if all these mumim that were mentioned by the Baal Habais, by the seller, are really true? What would be if all these mumim are actually real mumim, and he finds out sooner or later that, yes, let's talk about the cow. He really knows that the cow, oy vavoy, a cow. Who educated that cow? Who took it to school? Yeah, it bites and it kicks and it screams and it's stubborn, everything. He sees that they're all true. Plus one mum, another mum, that is a mum of what? Let's say overeating, which was inserted amongst them. Do we still say it's mekachtos or not? The Chora, I would say it's not mekachtos, because he really does have the mumim, right? He didn't lie. He does have all the mumim. On the other hand, and that's a svar which I try to understand, it's not a very easy svar. As much as I try to understand, I'll tell you what Rashi says. He says, even though it came out true what you're saying, that it has all the mumim, but you mentioned all these mumim, when you spoke like that, it didn't sound credible to begin with. When a person sells you something, and it tells you so many issues, so many problems, I thought that some of the things it has and some of the things it doesn't have. In other words, although it came out true at the end of the day, but at the time of the sale, it didn't sound credible that the thing you're selling has so many mumim. That whole rigmarole, this whole big list that you're telling me of mumim, that is of itself may possibly be something that doesn't sound credible. And I thought that some of the things are true, some are not true. And now, therefore, I don't believe now, therefore, I view that as mekachtos. Yeah? Rashi says, had I known that this mum is there, I wouldn't have taken it. Yeah? In other words, he's only makpid on one specific mum, right? Okay. And that mum is mentioned amongst so many other mumim. And when you were saying it has blah, 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 I was like, that cannot be. Maybe that's mekachtos. No, that's not true. You cannot say that. You can't take it to that extent. This is what we say in the Rove. If the cow or the shifcha or the whatever or the car has all the mumim that are mentioned by Baal Habais, as incredible as it sounds, but if sooner or later you find out that really those mumim exist, it's not a mekachtos. When the person lied, he's kilo lying to his own detriment, to his own deficit, and a chinami, we say it's mekachtos. You said a lot of mumim, the mumim are not there. There's a contradiction between you and reality. Then we say, listen, you talk nonsense, and therefore, even though there is one mum that really happened and really bothers me, I just don't believe you. But if the person mentioned many, many mumim, and they are true, these mumim actually happen to be true and happen to inflict the behema or the shifcha, then he said the truth. As crazy as it sounds, yes, he's selling you an item with many mumim. You accepted it. Now don't come crying to me. Yeah, it's true that it sounds maybe, wow, exaggerated and nutty, but they're there. The mumim are there. If the mumim are there, then yes, then you have to accept it, and it's not mekachtos. Here comes the next Mishnah soon. Question session, and we're going back to the Mishnah. Our next Mishnah, and this is why I don't know how much viewers can see the whiteboard, but I'll explain it Balpeh also. Basically, the Mishnah now is talking about that game between the balance between volume and weight. Yeah, we all know that, let's say that some materials, some things are naturally lighter than the others. Yeah, what do you mean lighter? Depends how much you put. A kilo is a kilo, yes and no. Yeah, a kilo of iron, yeah, is much, much smaller and dense and takes much, much less volume than a kilo of feathers. So though the kilo is the same kilo, but you have to add many, many more feathers and actually fill in much more volume in order to reach the same weight. True or false? True. That even I know. Now comes the Mishnah, and this entire Mishnah in the following Gemara is all about that game between volume and weight. And let's now remember that se'oirin, meaning barley, are lighter than chitim, which means if you want to equalize the weight of barley to the weight of wheat, you will have to add more barley than wheat in order to achieve the same, more volume of barley you'll have to add in order to get to the same balanced weight. Are you with me? Good. Now, let's start nice and slow. And the question is as follows. Says the Mishnah, let's say a person told his friend, listen, I need your chamor. I'm going to buy, not to buy, to rent your chamor. In order to bring chitim, I need to bring some chitim, some wheat. How much wheat? Let's say the wheat, the normal weight that a chamor can carry is one letech. One letech. Letech is half a kor. Yeah, kor is 30 se'ah. Yeah, so letech is 15 se'ah. The normal weight of a donkey that it can carry is 15 se'ah. Let's say, I'm not saying now if the se'ah is weight or volume. Let's just accept it as a general term. 15 se'ah is what the chamor can carry. And I thought, I'm the chamor owner, I thought you're going to place in it 15 se'ah of what? Of wheat. All good, very nice. Maximum weight, like in the airplane, like in the elevator, in the lift. Yeah, maximum weight it can tolerate, it can take is 15 se'ah. More than that, you have to talk to me and see. It may not be the desired thing to have more than 15 se'ah. The heavy alea se'oirin. Oh, now there are very two different ways to understand the Mishnah. I'm going now one way, which is like Rashi and the Bartanura. Heavy alea se'oirin. Instead of chitim, he put on it se'oirin, meaning barley. Now, barley is lighter. Says the person, wait, I'm allowed to put how much? A volume, I'm allowed to put on it the weight X, however much is the weight that contains the volume of letech, of 15 se'ah, but I'll put se'oirin. And therefore, se'oirin, I will add how much? I will add more se'oirin and add volume, and I'm not a liar, I'm a good guy, because really I'm reaching the same weight as chitim, right? But I'm reaching them in se'oirin. So I'm adding more se'oirin, in order to get to a similar weight. Now, there are two versions to that, and this, please follow me. Version number one. In order to equalize the weight, we'll see that in the Gemara, and that's not how I'm explaining the Mishnah now. You have to have that as general knowledge. One letech of wheat, in order to achieve the same thing by barley, you have to, in order to achieve the same weight, equal weight, then you have to add more volume to the barley. How much more? You have to add one saw, the 16th saw. One cell contains 6 kabim. Okay, kav is an even smaller measure. Okay, so that would make it equal in weight. Yeah, in other words, once you added one entire saw, here are 15 saw, you added one saw, which is 6 kabim, then you'll reach the same weight. That is definitely not something you're allowed to do. Why not? Because it's true that the weight is the same, but we don't just look at the weight, we look at the volume. And actually, the actual volume itself, it's more bulky, right? In other words, don't tell me that to carry a small suitcase of 10 kilos is like carrying a huge bag of, some duvet comforter of 10 kilos. It's much more bulky and much more, right? That's really what's going on in the Mishnah. So you, the donkey renter, think, no, I'm a good guy. I didn't add 1 ounce to the weight. Yeah, but you added to the volume. That's really the name of the game of the Mishnah. That's the general idea of the Mishnah before we go into the details. However, another pshat, which is the pshat we follow now, says the same idea, but even more extreme. Let's say to the 15 saw of wheat, which is what you're supposed to take, you added only 3 kabin. Why only 3 kabin? You saying, no, listen, I'm even a better boy. The weight is still less, right? It's right. The weight is even less than that. Why? How much? When would the weight be the same? When I added 6 kabim. If I added 3 kabim, the weight of the barley is still less than the wheat, but the volume is more. In other words, the middle of the road between volume and weight. It's the middle of the journey. I added a little bit more of barley, which makes it be more of volume. Obviously, there's more barley, but it didn't yet reach the equality of the weight. Equality will only be achieved by 6 kabim. He only added 3. Get it? even at that point, yes, it's easy for you, for sure it's easy. Yeah, yeah, of course. When you get 6 kabim, then the weight will be equalized. Here you only added half of that, so the barley still doesn't weigh as much as the wheat. More volume, yeah, more bulk, more body, right? Even that, according to Abaye, I'm letting you know from the Gemara later, is already a problem. Once you add anything of three, if you added 2 or 1 kabim, it's okay. Once you added 3 kabim, even though it's less of weight, but the additional volume is 3 kabim. 3 kabim is the treifa number. 3 kabim is too much, even when the weight is even less than the original. But the volume is more than 3 kabim, more than what's supposed to be. That alone, then that's when the red lights go on. No questions till the end of the Mishnah, needless to say. It's one of the Mishnahs you have to read in one thing, and then I'll hear you. He's supposed to bring on it 15 saw of meaning 1 letter of chitin. Let's say even only 3 kabin more chayev. You're already chayev. Why chayev? If anything happens to the donkey, we'll allege it to the fact that you added 3 kabin more, even though the addition is only in volume and not in weight. Very similar. The question is what's the chiddush, by the way. I'm not explaining it now. The Meforshim explained. Let's say he was supposed to bring tvua. What's tvua? Wheat, barley, cereals. He brought hay. Hay is lighter and takes more volume with the same weight. Same idea. Chayev. Just like extra weight is kosher, right? That person in the airport is very angry with 1 kilo more. In other words, extra masu is bad for the donkey when it's 3 kabim. Nefach is the same. What's nefach? Volume. The nefach, the volume too, is hard, not just harder, the same amount. Just like we'll see at the end of the Mishnah, that extra 3 is always the bad number by weight. It's also the bad number, the too much of an extra number by volume. However, lehovi letech chitin bevi letech seoirin potu. Oh, let's say, now you tell me, what would be if it was the same volume? Let's say the person was meant to bring the volume of letech of 15 same of chitin, and he brought 15 same of seoirim of how much? The same volume, obviously less weight, right? The same volume potu. If anything happens to the behema, there's nothing you can complain about because it was the same volume. As long as it's the same volume and the weight is even less, because seoirim who have the same volume as chitin definitely weigh how much less? 1 seah less. It's really 14 same, which get you to the same volume. Oh, as long as the volume is the same and the weight is even less, the guy is a tzaddik gadol. The donkey collapsed under, not my fault. That's okay. However, the im moisif al masor chayev. If he added to the volume, as we said, it was the same volume, but then Mr. Smarty Pants said, "Hey, let's add another 3 soim because lamaisa the weight it's even less than the weight, but it's more volume." No, once you add 3 more same of volume to the existing volume, then you chayev. I gave you the secret. I told you the secret. The Kama Yosef al Masor Be'chayev. The Mishnah finishes off by saying, how much? How much extra? What's the extra baggage? What's the extra volume that you're not allowed to add? And if you did, you'll be chayev. Sumchus oimam mishum bimeir sel legomel. For a gamal, which is a bigger animal, it's 1 entire sel, which is 6 kabim. Shloisha kabim lechamor. Here we're talking about chamor. Here is a secret number, the key number 3. Once you add 3 kabim to a chamor, meaning even though it weighs less, but the volume is 3 kabin more, you're chayev. So far, so good. That's one way of understanding the Mishnah. So let me again show you here. So if you added 3 kabim, although the weight of the barley is less, but there's more volume, you hit 3 kabin maximum. That's when the check-in person says, too much. The chamor cannot take it. That's the end of the Mishnah. Tell me the number. Are you good? Yeah. That now. Needless to say this, obviously, needless to say, if you added 6 kabim, so the weight is the same. You equalize the weight by adding so much more volume, then haratzachta v'gamirashta. You're adding much more volume, and the weight is the same. Treifa, treifa. If anything happens to the donkey, mister, and it's going to fall, crack, back, papa, you'll have to pay big time Yes, it's a quick time for questions now. Yeah, a little bit of a question window, and then we'll have to continue. Yeah, says the Holy Gemara, Itmar. Now comes the big machlokes Abaye and Rav how to learn the Mishnah. The way I explained to you the Mishnah, by the way, was according to Abaye, and so do the Rav, the Botanura, and Rashi. Itmar. The Abaye and Rav and I have an argument how to read one line in the Mishnah, and that completely changes the entire Mishnah. Abaye Omar Koshe Kemasu Itnan. When we spoke about extra volume being bad, we say volume, extra volume is as bad like as a masui. Just like extra weight is a problem, however you view that, so too extra weight is a problem. That's Abaye, and we're going to explain it. Rava Omar Koshe Le Masu Itnan. Rava says no. Volume is a problem, like Ellen was saying, because extra volume is a masu. It's kosher. It's harder to manage with. As we explained, yeah. Don't tell me that carrying 5 kilos or 10 kilos of something, a small suitcase, is as hard as carrying 10 kilos of something big and bulky. The Gemara is going to explain everything. Abaye Omar. Let's go into Abaye, and Abaye is like we explained before. Kosher kemasu itnan. What does it mean? What does it mean that nafcha ki tikla, which means nefach, extra volume, has the same number, the same quantity like extra takla. What's takla? Weight. The imoisiv shlosha kabin chayev, which means just like at the end of the Mishnah we saw that whoever adds extra what? Extra weight. This is how Abaye learns the end of the Mishnah. Extra weight of 3 kilos. Let's talk dafka in modern terms. 3 kilos, 3 kabin, weight measure, kilo. 3, whatever it is. I told you 15 kilos, let's say. You added 3, nagid, 3 kilos, 3 mishkal, weight, 3 is extra chayev. So too, I machmir, and 3 kabin of what? Of extra volume, although the weight is less. The weight is less over here of the barley. It didn't yet hit the same. It didn't tip the balance. It didn't equalize the balance yet. However, extra volume, the same number of 3, which is bad for weight, is also a bad number. It's too much. It's excessive number for volume. That's Abaye. Rava Amar no. Rava Amar kosher lemasu itnan. Rava says no. I'm not as extreme as you. It's very easy. This is Abaye. This case is what Abaye says also. Rava says this is also. Rava says like this. Rava says this is okay. No. As long as the numbers are not equal, as long as the weight is less, the weight of the barley, which you changed, is less than the weight of the, what's his name, of the wheat, it's still okay. Rava says this is terrific. Rava says this is nice and good, and this is not good. You know when the issue is? When the volume is the same, at the beginning. And then you added how much? An entire saw, and you equalized the weight. You equalize the weight by adding so much more volume. That's when it's a problem. Rav is more mekel. Yeah? As in the words of the Gemara, it's kosher lemasui. I think that the volume, as you say, when it's so much, it's 6 kabin more, the animal is like staggering, is like that, that's when it's a problem. And Rav explains himself, takla ki takla, right? If the mishkal is the same, mishkal is the same mishkal, they both have the same weight, which we don't know, by the way, what that is. The nafcha havi tosefes, and the nefach, meaning the extra nefach of an entire saw that made you reach the same weight, that's a problem. That's what Rav learned. So Lamaisa the Machlokes is quite simple. If you take away all the frill, it's a very clear Machlokes. Abaye says once you hit 3 kabin, that's when the red light starts blinking. Yeah, I don't care. It's less weight. It's more 3 more. I don't like the number 3. 3 more in weight or 3 more in volume, even though it weighs less. 3 more treifene. That's Abaye. Rava says no. Excuse me. Rava says I only think that the volume is mashpia when it's so much more volume. When you add to it so much in order to equalize the weight. Weight-wise is the same. Zev nefach is more, right? It's more nefach. Ad kedei that it's the same weight. At that point, when it's 6 kabim, that's when Rava goes red. Now, frek the Gemara now against Rava. The question is, how would Rava read the end of the Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Tnan, lavi letech chitin, vevi letech soirin potu, right? We saw that if they both have the same letech, meaning that everyone agrees to that, by the way. That statement of the Mishnah is unanimously good. The same volume is okay. Weight, shmeit, if it's the same volume, the weight is clearly less, right? Because it's the same volume. the weight of the soirim is less. Beautiful baby, Maxim. Oh, but then it says at the end of the Mishnah, if you added on top of that equal volume, you added more, you're chayev. My love, how much more are you chayev? Shloishes kabin. Lichoyer, you have to already, once you already hit 3 kabin extra, you're already chayev, like Abaye, not like Rava. Says Rava, no, sell, mapitom. Who told you? Why are you attacking me? It says more. How much more? I think sell more. 6 kabim, not 3. Fregdigmar, no, Rava. You can't get off the hook so quickly. Ta'aloktani, look at the very, very end of the Mishnah. By the way, I have a chart in Hebrew, which I'll translate to English later, of how each part of the Mishnah follows each opinion. Now comes the main question, the real arrowhead question against Rava. It says at the end of the Mishnah, the Kama Yosef al Masoy B'Yechayev, how much more aren't you allowed to add onto the burden you'll be chayev? For a gomel, for a camel, it's 1 sale, but we're not talking about a gomel. Oh my gosh. Knockout for Rava. It says outright, it says that if you add 3 kabin to a chamor, it's an issue. And it sounds like what? And it talks about a case of when everything was equal, then you added to the equality 3 kabin, and that's bad. Sounds like the Mishnah is mefurish lakabai against Rava. Didn't say 6 kabin, 1 set, it says 3 kabin. Answers the Gemara, Rava comes it very nicely. Rava says no. Hachikomer. This is what it says. That's what I told you before, parents. Heicha deloi shani. The very, very end of the Mishnah talks about a different case altogether. The guy, who's the guy? The one who rides the donkey, the one who rented the donkey, did not change when he didn't change from the material, from the type. Chitin devi chitin. Soirin devi soirin. I rented it for chitim. I'm a good boy. I put chitim. However, I'm tricking you where? With the numbers. Kama Yosef al Masoy B'Yechayev. How much more chitim do you add to the chitim, which you shouldn't, and you'll be chayev? It's not chitim versus soirim. Stam, it's weight. That's what I told before. I have the same, the volume is the same. Doesn't make a difference. I'm supposed to put 15 saw of what? Of chitim, and I added more chitim. At what point will they already find me? Not fine. At what point I'll be chayiv if the animal breaks? Sumchu says for a gomel it's an extra sale. Very good. Says Robert, that doesn't attack me at all. We're talking about adding 3 kabim to a chamor when it's chitin, and he added 3 kabim of weight to the chitim. That's why, my friend, you see your kabim can also be weight. That's why I'm vacillating here, and I think I'm pretty sure about that. You see that here very mefurish on the Rishonim, that when you added 3 kabim of weight to the whatever you're supposed to put, it's the same volume, it's extra weight. Then 3 kabim, that's when the red light starts blinking. Masha'en ken, in my case, in this case, which is a dispute between Abai and Rava, when he added 3 kabim of what? Of volume, but the weight is less. Not only didn't add weight, it still weighs less than the original. It just volume-wise more. That 3 more at that point, says Rava, I'm still cool. I'm still fine. Only when you reach the same weight by adding so much more, the like 6 kabi, which is 1 saw, that says Rava, that's when my red lights start blinking. Unbelievable. The Mishnah is such a very, very difficult Mishnah, and I think we have it clear. And let's just add one more thing. Toshma, I'm going to send you the chart today, Blineda. Lavi letech chitin. Now it says in the Brisa, one was asked, what's a letech? That's the amount. Letech is 15 saw. That's the maximum weight, or close to maximum that the chamor can carry. Lavi letech chitin vehevi, and you brought instead of that 16 seoirim chayev. What is 16? Instead of 15 saw, you brought 16th of seoirim. That's exactly whose case? Rove chayev. Ashloshes kabin potu. This is an attack on Abaye. It says if I was asked to bring 15, I'm allowed to bring 15 seh of chitim, and I brought 16 of soirim, 15 plus 1 saw, 6 kabim is 1 saw. That's when things are bad, and I'm chayiv if the animal collapses. Oh, sounds like if it's only 3, I'm potter. That's outright against Abaye. Against Abaye. You see, only when I added 6, added an entire saw in chayiv of soirim to equalize the weight by adding 1 saw of volume. Oh, you see not like Abaye. Answers the Gemara, Tirgama Abaye, b'mechikta. B'mechikta, which means we're talking here not about the big full ones, we talk about small ones. We talk about small ones which means the kind of kabin that we're talking about over here are not so, but really half. In other words, mechukois are like mechuk is like not shallow. No, how do you call it? No, leveled. Same thing. No, how do you say the teaspoon that's leveled? Yeah, leveled, like a leveled teaspoon sugar. Oh, the leveled ones are less. In other words, you know that many times Chazal call the same measurement like an amma. There's a bigger amma, smaller amma, medium amma. So the kind of saw that we talk about over here, says Abaye, are really half of what we usually talk about, and half of a 6 is 3. So really meant my thing, which is 3 and not 6. We have a question here from Abba Simkin. Safe of Mishnah. I'm not sure what you mean, but why does Gemara discuss safe of Mishnah? If you talk about discard Mishnah, definitely does. We are discussing now the safe of the Mishnah. We do talk now about the safe of the Mishnah. Okay, basically that's it. Charts will be sent Bezos Hashem today, I really hope. And yeah, that's a machloikis. Machloikis is about this case. A person added 3 kabim to the original amount. The weight is still less, but the addition is 3. Says Abai, that's already bad. Says Rabbi, no, only when you added so much that it made the weight equal, then the nefach is so much more, 6 kabin more, which is 1 saw, only then it's an issue. It boiled down to something quite simple. Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Yes, there always has to be a cut-off point. Yes. Thank you very much. Atzlacha to everyone, YouTube, everyone in Torah Anytime, and everyone here in the room. Thank you all. Amazing. See you tomorrow. Yeah.